We are back with another video about Marvel Rivals, and today we're doing it a little bit differently. We have a few friends here, as you can see just below, and we're going to discuss the balance update. We're going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it and see what people are thinking about these updates, people who are playing some of these characters, people who are maining these characters that aren't just me, and kind of give you a broader perspective on what it feels like from a player perspective, I guess. You know, when we see these videos, otherwise, you see one or two people who kind of really try and define what the game is. And yes, they're usually at a higher tier as well. So this is kind of people who are on the sort of bog standard level of entry to the game. And, you know, they're going to kind of discuss, and we're going to kind of have a discussion around it. And I think it's going to be quite fun. So let's get to it. Hello, everyone. Hello.
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 So,
Go away.
Okay. We have Ajax, Nate, and Phin with us today. Hi, guys. Welcome.
And remember, everyone, post in the comments that Prota should bring back Yakuza as a playthrough, preferably zero.
Oh my gosh. Right, well, now that we've got that in there, let's get up these patch notes. Does everyone have them up, or am I running through them? Am I vocalizing them? I've done a million different things here.
I got them up.
I got my homework up.
You got your homework up? Cool. Right, that's great. So we're starting off with, of course, Vanguards. Now, probably one of the characters who got the biggest kind of like list of changes, I'd say, is Cap, right? Yeah. So a lot of changes there. I've got to say, like, so I do play Cap, as you guys know, and I've got to say, I don't know if Cap needed a lot of changes for me. I think they make sense, and I don't dislike them, but I don't really feel like I needed them for me. Do you guys feel the same? Do you guys feel Cap was already pretty oppressive?
My opinion is it is kind of funny to see that. I think, objectively speaking, he was the worst tank in the game when this game like launched.
Yeah,
and it seems more and more like they're going for him being the big bruiser tank that can well, not really big bruiser, but the one who could pick off like.
He's
really,
going for those supports. Yeah.
And dive out.
Yeah, he is a full dive tank. Yeah,
he is tank. He is like dive. Yeah, I mean obviously he can shield himself mid leap.
I think that's the biggest change, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's not even. I don't think that's that huge, realistically, because I feel like that should have just been in it anyway.
It feels it's the logical sense one, right? It's like, well, why wouldn't he be? It's like, do you know what? It reminds me of a moment in Overwatch where like there was a character, Sombra, who could stop McCree at the time. He's now called Cassidy. She could stop him from rolling across the ground. And it's like, what? Like, there's certain things that you feel like that don't make sense from like a standpoint of just like law, right? So or like sense, like physics, right? So in this instance, I kind of agree with that, just on the sense of sense. Like, it just makes sense, right? But
man's jumping with his legs. He can use his arms to hold a shield up.
What I'll say as well is the reduce of the ultimate I don't mind about too much either, because I don't think Capsule, it's a survivability. It doesn't like when someone activates that, I think, oh, there's Cap running around for 10 seconds or whatever. But I don't feel scared necessarily like I do with other ults. So I don't think.
It also, I very rarely see a Cap ulting compared to the other tanks.
Yeah.
So reducing it in cost means you're going to see it more often, which is going to help his survivability a lot more.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think Cap's ult changes
the game.
Yes.
It doesn't save the round. It doesn't take the weight. You know, like when you use like a Sue Storm ult.
Yes.
That just changes the entire round. You know, that's a big push. Cap kind of doesn't really influence the entire round with his ults.
The one thing I'll say, despite that, and I think this is one thing that I think is actually going to benefit from this, is Cap can, in those kind of scary moments, hold a point a little bit if you're waiting for people to get back with that. And I think that's something that is going to like kind of a very fun like clench/clutch kind of maneuver. And I think Cap having that a little bit is actually a good thing. Having this kind of a little bit more of like a fun survivability moment and being like he can do this all day type thing on the point, right? Yeah. So like it's very thematic. He's like the guy who's there at the end, kind of still fighting.
True, absolutely, yeah. I also feel like his ult, I wouldn't use it this way, but if you're coming from spawn, obviously he leaves that flag behind him, and everyone gets a speed boost.
Yes.
Like if you've got 10 seconds left on the clock and you can throw that in, he's the one to lead that final charge as well. You know, you could definitely get everyone to point.
Yeah.
A lot quicker that way.
So generally, I think positive, but I think you need to see this one in game. I think compared to, because there's a lot of words in this. I know that sounds like something silly to say, but it's very wordy, and I think seeing it in game and seeing how that actually translates to the meta is going to be a little bit more of like a deciding point for this one specifically for Cap.
Yeah. I think he's like, we're going to see him be played more, and I kind of like we're going to go into like a very dive centric meta for going on forward. I think.
Yeah.
And with the usual anchor tank, Doctor Strange, he's been hit with a nerf.
Yes, so let's move to Doctor Strange. It's not a crazy nerf though. It's not insane. It's very small.
I actually think it is bigger than you think it is.
Do you think?
Because the ultimate thing about Doctor Strange is, I've noticed my time playing, he is incredibly difficult to put down. You get into a sliver of health, he will get out somehow. Moving that window where he has like 50 health instead of getting down to 0, it's going to mean that he's going to be much less survivable. And I think it's going to balance him out because he is like the most played tank in high rank, I think, currently.
Solid, yeah.
Yeah, what I'll say as well is with Strange, and this is something I think you guys can all attest to as well, is a lot of Strangers end up using that freaking melee ability, right? They're like they're whacking people. I feel like they're going to be a little bit more conservative doing that now. You know, I feel like they're going to kind of maybe be a little bit more like, ooh, I don't want to be going in and thwacking everyone all the time because I've got a little bit less health. Not saying that that's like a massive thing to consider, but I think it's sort of there a little bit, you know?
It will change how people play Strange for sure, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because you think, on the surface, that looks like a very small, minimal, like almost nothing change, but it does affect things, right? So
in game 50 can be, that is the difference.
Well, it's like exactly like Phin just said, for sure.
It's 25 is big for a DPS, for a tank, 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have another small one with Groot. Increasing the threat range, everyone's favorite Flora Colossus, increasing the Thornlash wall placement. I don't think it's a bad change. I don't think I don't know what.
I don't think it was needed.
No, it feels. I don't know what it's meant. Like, not what it's meant to do. Obviously, because I get it. They're wanting to give him a little bit more ability to block things at like a little bit further distance. Yes. Yeah. But what I find is Groot's playstyle, at least how I play Groot, is putting the wall behind people so that they get trapped in and then they're getting hit by that damage. Right. So. Yeah. I kind of feel like this is almost counter to that because Groot's going to be even further away from that wall to be able to do the damage, right? At least that's how I see it. I don't know whether you guys see the same.
I mean, you could, it's 18 meters isn't huge, but it's not like, but it's you could end up getting them walls closer to the back lines, and I think the biggest issue what I have with Groot as a healer main is the fact that when you're going up against an enemy Groot, there's just walls in front of you. Like you're healing your tank, and there's a wall behind them all of a sudden, so you can't heal them. Yeah. Like I don't think the range on that wall matters too much because they just end up putting it directly behind the person they're fighting anyway.
Yeah.
I think the main
is irrelevant.
It's an extra 3 meters.
Yeah.
The main buff that's really giving Groot is when he's coming back from spawn and rejoining the fight. You can rejoin it a little bit earlier by putting that wall down sooner.
I suppose, yes, yeah. And if you're throwing if you're throwing his his projectile, then I can sort of see how that might in those instances help him a little bit get back in there.
Yeah. He's Groot's slow as well, and he's not exactly like a
no, he isn't. Yeah, exactly. Next. I think a small amount of changes, but a big change with Magneto here. That he's getting increase to his damage, but a little bit less on the duration, right? For his AoE shield, right? The long one, right?
Yeah. That's a big change on the shield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like that's what you rotate the most with Magneto, right? Like, so I feel like it's going to basically mean, at least as I see it, that you're not really going to be as efficiently solo tank with him anymore.
I mean, when you look at like the high level gameplay, they very rarely use their shields, like the personal bubble or the metal curtain. They very rarely use either of them. They rely solely on just soaking the damage, giving their healers ult charge.
Well, that's true as well.
And then using them as a last resort if an ult's coming in.
Yeah, like an Iron Man ult or something like that. Yeah, for sure.
So it's less impactful for high rank because they don't use it anyway, but it's going to be a big change to the low rank Magnetos.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, I think Magneto can be pretty scary offensively anyway. So having him have a little bit more damage as well. Like I've done some good kill streaks on Magneto before, so I think kind of offsetting it a little bit. I'm interested to see how that looks, because it looks like he's going to be a little bit more scary to fight, but not necessarily as scary to go up against at a distance, if you know what I mean.
It made him more of an offensive tank.
Just a little bit, moving on.
Very offensive tank.
Yes, already a very offensive tank, and this is actually further, right?
Quite a big buff in it.
Yeah, because I always felt like that was a little bit of a weird one for me. So I think that's going to be actually a change that I really enjoy when I play Thor. I don't play Thor loads, but I do think that's one that I always was like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like I didn't quite get it. So I think getting rid of that is actually a good one. I don't really have much more to say on that one, to be honest. I think it's
feels like it's something that should have been in from the start.
Yeah, it's the cap shield again, right? It's the same thing. So I think that's it on that one, to be honest.
Very simple
now, here's one that you're interested in talking about, Phin. Venom.
Now, I will say this. I think if I'm understanding his ability correct, is that whenever the knockback now draws people in, which is really good.
Yes.
Because that will essentially that he will become far better at harassing supports.
Yeah.
And I did some checking. He will now have the second lowest ultimate ability cost in the game, next to like the Hulk transformation whenever he like goes and battles the Hulk.
So basically, effectively the lowest, because that's like not really. Yeah. So I kind of like it because it's Venom's it can be used well for Venom, right? But I don't think it's a scary ult that you see on the battlefield, right? You don't think, oh, this is going to be this is going to be game changing. And what I kind of almost like here, it becomes not, oh, this is a crazy ult to use at certain points. It almost becomes part of his kit. Right? I know that sounds a silly thing to say, but it feels almost like Hulk transforming now. It feels more like this is just part of how Venom plays. You go in, you have your ult, obviously, yes, less frequently, but you can use it, and then you're kind of doing this knockback inward and all that type of stuff. And it feels like they've kind of moved the ult to be more of like his kind of typical gameplay, rather than like this ability that is used infrequently, so to speak.
Yeah, drawing them inwards after that frenzied arrival as well, and then using that one that grips onto them all.
Yeah,
it's gonna be so much easier to do that. There's a lot that's Ben, I feel like that as a support player, I hate it.
Yes, which is right.
But like, as if you were a Venom player, I can see that being like really helpful for you.
What'll be really interesting, and it goes back to something that Phin was saying about the dive tank meta now, and I think seeing Cap and Venom together now is going to be extremely scary. Scary.
I think that's going to change how the game is played. You know, it's not going to be two like Hulk and Magneto or Doctor Strange and Hulk standing in the front line blocking the damage and the DPS picking off. Because now it's going to be dive tanks. So then the other team's got to kind of compensate for that and go, okay, cool. How do we break these? How do we kill these tanks? Quick?
Yeah, you might not have Sorry.
No, you're going. I was saying, you've got to change your team. I feel like these new buffs and stuff. I think they'll change people's playstyle, and I feel like we'll see a lot more like entire comp changes and character changes as a result.
Yeah,
if this is giving a lot of dive, people are going to have to compensate that, and if they're against it, they're going to have to either dive themselves or go a full rule meta.
Yeah, and kind of like have a little bit more of a kind of you're going to have to go for characters who are a little bit more sturdy, right, or a little bit more survivable.
Just everyone grouping up together, doing everything as one.
I was thinking
if someone dives in, then you just converge on them, get rid of that dive threat, and then move on.
Yeah, I was thinking that kind of as Nate was speaking, that the idea we have this very rigid 2-2-2 kind of idea going into the game, and they've said they didn't want that anyway. But I think a lot of people have kind of tried to stick to that. It's not going to happen now. I mean, not only the fact that we had the 3 healer meta anyway, but that we're now moving past that and we're moving to a meta that kind of in this scenario, you're going to kind of want those kind of heavy, like you're going to want a Wolverine, right? I personally think you're going to want a Wolvie and like another DPS that's pretty kind of like able to kind of deal with that backline situation. And I don't think in backline is even going to be so much of a not that it's not going to be a thing, but I think you're going to have a little bit more of a people are moving around the like Ajax has just said as well, moving around the battlefield a lot more and kind of getting into every part of the fight rather than just being up front behind, like type thing.
Yeah, I feel like Wolverine now could become a lot more of a defensive character rather than like a offense.
Yeah, kind of. Defending the backs.
We're defending backline with Wolverine. And
we are saying this as a character that becomes immune to knockback has just entered the game.
Yes.
And
that's true. Yeah. Right, so that's Vanguards. I think generally positive on Vanguards, right, guys? I think everyone's pretty happy with the change. I don't think there's anything that's going to like kill the game, so to speak.
Get dived so much.
Well, that's fair. That's the point, right? That's why the discussion's happening. It's nice to know what people are thinking, how people see these changes, and like I personally am very happy about the cap changes. I know obviously Phin, you're happy about the Venom changes, and Ajax, I know you kind of pick up some of those tanks on occasion, so you kind of will be able to see those changes as well. But it's nice to have someone like Nate here who says, I hate it,
Yeah, I don't do a lot of tanking. If I do, it's either Hulk or Penny. And neither
Penny's in a like Penny is good for situational, and Hulk is just in a good place generally. And I think they're probably going to be looking at Hulk kind of. I mean, they have some stuff about Hulk later down in this, but it's kind of to do with his team up. But I think Hulk's...
Honestly, I don't think Hulk needs much changes at all.
No, I think he's pretty...
He stands solid there, he soaks up the damage, and that's it.
And that's the point of Hulk, right? Like, if I think of Hulk as a character fantasy, that's what Hulk is, right? He's the big guy, right? And, so it makes total sense. Right. That's Vanguards then. We're on to Duelists. First up is Black Widow. Now, I still think Widow, personally, I kind of think Widow needs... She's the Symmetra, for those who have played Overwatch, she's the Symmetra of Marvel Rivals in that she doesn't quite cohese the same way a lot of the other characters do. And I think she kind of needs a lot more changes than just this, but there are some buffs here. What do you guys think of this one?
Needed, as you said. She's... Everyone always goes. You see a Widow on your team, and you automatically go,
yes,
it's a throw pick.
Yeah. So
I think the ult change is definitely needed.
Yeah.
Less fussed about the magazine capacity.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I play Widow or anyone with ammo, really, it's you shoot a few shots. If you can't see anyone, like
you're reloading anyway.
You're going to reload anyway.
Exactly.
I'm never going to get to the point where I'm using those full 15 capacity.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, for example, a Widow. I know she's not Hawkeye, but 2 shots and typically you've took someone out, right? There or thereabouts. If you're playing Widow at a higher level, right? But 15, it doesn't quite it doesn't compute because you're right, exactly. Whilst you're killing 1 or 2 people, there's probably going to be another 2 got dead, and then it doesn't quite.
There's no way you need 15 bullets.
The best way to describe Black Widow's buff is getting fries from Burger King and getting an onion ring in it. You didn't want it, you didn't ask for it, but it's nice to have.
There. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. Okay. Hawkeye. Now, Hawkeye was a big one last balance update. He was looked at a lot. What do you guys think about these changes for him?
I think he was pretty survivable anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he necessarily needed the health increase.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a lot of Hawkeyes in general.
It's
compared to Season 0.
It's slowed down, hasn't it? Yeah, for sure.
But I think a big part of that was he had the seasonal buff.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I will say, what I'll say is, I think this is, again, not like Ajax just said, the increased base health. I don't think that's necessarily like it was needed, but it is what it is. And I think the other one that I like is the reduced time on the crescent slash. That's the one where he knocks people back. I think giving a sniper a little bit more of a survivability in that way is a good one.
Great, yeah.
I don't think these other ones were necessarily needed, because to be honest, I don't think I ever see anyone use the blast arrow much of it all, to be honest. And also I think his ult is, if you're using that ult well, like, you don't really need, I don't feel like it needed extra draw on that, but it is what it is.
Like we said with Widow, I don't think it was like it's necessary, but it's good to have. It's But I think I don't see a lot of Hawkeyes at all.
It's slowed down for sure.
So I think we might see a couple more Hawkeyes now with a little bit more health, and the cooldown on that crescent slash is going to keep them alive so much more. Because I've played Hawkeye, and that comes in handy. Like,
it really does. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. Now, Hela. Sorry, Finn. Did you say something? Sorry.
What even is Hela's change? I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
What does it actually do?
Is Night Sword Thorn, which one's that one again? I'm going to be honest.
I'm pretty sure that's just her main attack.
Oh, okay.
So just more damage fall off it. Okay.
No, so
it's better at longer range, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Which is okay.
It's less damage decrease.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that is just a normal attack.
I don't think it's going to be big, like a massive change. It's not big. It's not a big change.
The thing is, I think you've got to hit someone first, right? Like,
yeah.
And I've seen a lot of Hela players that do not hit people. I can tell you that for a fact.
I mean, if you go on to Hela, like she's got a pretty much 50% win rate, which is big.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 100%.
And she is one of the main DPS picks at high ranks.
Yeah.
So buffing her already, like when she's already that good and that loved in the game, giving her a buff like that, I think it's possibly too much.
Yeah, it seems so small, but when it's your primary attack, that changes a lot. With your higher rank, because lower rank, this isn't really going to mean anything, right? It isn't going to mean really much at all because people can't hit things. But at higher levels of play, it changes it, right?
It means that she is definitely edging even closer to Sniper than just a primary hit scan.
Okay, now
speaking of Hela, sorry, they did announce the Twitch drops is going to be an emote for the game that we got left.
So and then it's like a spray of Thing and Hulk, and then Hela's emote, right, to go with it.
Yeah.
And then I think they're doing another one later in the half season that's going to be a costume, I think, if I read that correctly, potentially, which is kind of cool. So right, now let's talk about one of the biggest ones. I think, apart from Cap, I think this is one of the other biggest ones. There's a lot of words in here again, but primarily what this all condenses down to is less damage for Iron Fist and more survivability, right?
Yeah, the harmony recovery to 150 is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does go down on your excess health, but that's big for Iron Fist.
Yeah. I think it's another one where you have to see it in game to know what it, because I think you can see all these numbers and you can say, oh, that's a decrease, but does that actually mean that he's actually any less destructible? Do you know what I mean? Does he destroy things less? Because Iron Fist, he hits pretty hard anyway. Is that like what I'm thinking might be the case now is if you've got someone healing you, you'll get away from an Iron Fist. If you haven't got someone healing you, I think it's going to be the same as before. Like, I think that's kind of where I'm seeing it personally.
I think the thing is now he's going to be like a cockroach that you can't kill.
Yeah.
Like, already Iron Fist has a decent amount. I think Iron Fist already had like a decent amount of survivability. Maybe it's because I'm speaking as an Iron Man player, but I can never put the second down. But this is going to be a bit rough to deal with. I'm not going to lie.
Again, the meta is diving, and it's going to be chaos in the game. It's going to be divers everywhere.
The thing is now, what's going to be, I think, annoying is even if he's not killing you, he's going to be on you all the more because you can't get. You're not like, oh, everyone turn the Iron Fist, kill him. Like he's probably going to get away, get some health back, and then come straight back at you, right? So you're still going to have to run around like a headless chicken, right? Like at least that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think the thing about Iron Fist ultimately is that nothing is damage is fine. I think the issue is that he just homes in so quickly on everyone. He has like some.
Well, he has an auto lock, doesn't he? Essentially,
he does. The auto lock, I think, needs like a ranged nerf of some kind because it does stuff that's way too ridiculous sometimes.
Like coming up into the air and killing an Iron Man.
Yeah. And catching up to a Spider-Man. I've seen that before.
Flying across the map.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That's the only thing that needs nerfing with him, man.
Yeah. I feel like after a certain point, I think maybe if like, I don't know how you would do it, but I think maybe like after a certain amount of hits, the auto lock kind of, you can't somehow swing your camera around and get them again like easily or something like that. I don't know how you would do it, but like I think being able to just like spin around and hit someone again and like you're flying across the whole air is just wild to me. Like, you know, I don't know. It's one of those ones where they've made a character that's pretty cool and I like him, but I mean, I played a match with him the other day. You guys were playing with me. Was it yesterday, actually? And like, I wasn't really doing much, but I got MVP. Like, I wasn't trying.
Yeah.
And not being like, not in like a, oh, look at me way. It's in the way of like, I think Iron Fist is a character that is overly powered, right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. He's got a massive kit at the end of the day.
But let's see how that one goes, I think. I think that's a matter of seeing how it plays in game. Now, Phin, another of your mains here. Iron Man.
Man. If only they'd given him a health buff as well.
Did you want a small health buff on him?
I think 20
for ages.
I think 25 it would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe armor overdrive can give him a bit of armor or something.
Right, okay. That could have been a cool way of doing it, yeah.
Yeah. However, honestly, the fact that his base unibeam damage and armor overdrive has been buffed this much means that he's gonna, even with Human Torch coming in just tomorrow, he's still gonna get a lot of use.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's probably what they were thinking here. I think that's the thing. They're thinking we're bringing in another flying character. That's our third flying character of the same sort of genre, so to speak. We need to make sure that Iron Man is still an interesting pick, but also not make him so oppressive with the Gamma side, right? Which obviously we'll get to. But I think they wanted him to still be an interesting pick, especially as you introduce it to the tank that is not dissimilar from Hulk. People who are playing Hulk now might want to play the Thing, and so you kind of have to keep in mind that the Hulk player base might move there a little bit as well, if that makes sense. So I get why they've kind of done this Iron Man change.
Personally speaking, if I was making an Iron Man buff, I'd make his Unibeam do 500 million damage and one-shot everything in the game.
And that's why I wanted everyone to know who mains who whilst we do this. Because then if there's bias, you guys know.
I think it's a decent change. Maybe I would have gone for a slight projectile speed buff, because I've been noticing Iron Man is kind of easy to dodge if you know what you're doing. Just like a teeny bit, like 10% faster.
Yeah,
I get that they've like you said with maybe people play Hulk less now because of the Thing, but I also think like without the Hulk, a lot of people don't play Iron Man. Like yes, people play Iron Man still, but if you've got a Hulk on your team, it's like great, Iron Man does straight.
Exactly.
Right? You know that's what you're gonna go for.
Yeah.
So having Iron Man be a little bit better on his own isn't the worst.
Well, it goes back to sort of what Ajax was saying before. At higher level, this means that Tony is going to be, Iron Man, however you want to put it, is going to be picked a little bit more, right? Because he's actually still relatively useful without Hulk. Because Hulk was getting banned. Like, Hulk is the top ban for the past half season, right? So I think this is kind of, again, that as well, right? It's the idea like, if Hulk's not being played for whatever reason, we want Iron Man to still be a viable pick, Yeah.
So you go. Hulk's banned. Well, I guess we can't use Iron Man then.
Yeah, exactly. It's like banning two heroes, right?
Iron Man, yeah.
People ban Hulk so that people don't pick Iron Man. It's actually the kind of the strategy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So next we have Magic. So basically they've given her ult a little bit. Like, so what I will say about this, I've not played loads of Magic, and I don't think any of us really have played loads of Magic, right?
No.
Okay.
I played a decent amount of Magic.
Yeah, but we're not really maining her or anything like that.
No.
So for me personally, when I've played Magic, I don't think I have an issue with the cost of Dark Child. I don't feel like I get it too slowly. I mean, not that I'm going to complain for getting it a little bit quicker, but it's the activation of it. I still have an issue with that. Because when you're activating it, how many times have you killed a Magic just after their ult or whilst they're activating their ult? And I think it's pretty high, right? That's my issue with Magic. I don't think I don't think this was necessary / unwarranted / I don't think it's going to change much. I think what should have happened is she should have had an invulnerability similar to a lot how a lot of people have during changes. The Hulk is right there as an example. You know, there's other ones where like they have like some kind of invulnerability during the beginning of that ult, right? And I think it's kind of, you know, you can still lock her down afterwards, relatively easily. But it's so frustrating when you start Magic's ult and you're dead, and like that happens to anyone at any point. But it definitely happens a lot more with Magic.
Yeah, I get that.
Do you guys think that's fair? Do you think that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah. I think as well. I think Dark Child is one of the more situational ults in this game as well. Yeah. So being able to pop it more often doesn't necessarily mean it will see more. It will see more like actual.
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic now, isn't he?
Well, unless anyone else has anything to say on Magic, or are we just kind of thinking sort of the same as what I've said?
I think the decrease dealt by Demon's Rage, I think, is somewhat. I'm not gonna lie, I've never once been hit by that demon. And I've never hit a demon.
It's a situational ability because ultimately it comes down to where Magic is. If Magic is fighting in the open, it's more obvious. Or if Magic can run into corner you in like a more contained area where you have less mobility, you will get shredded by it. I've seen it do quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, it does. It does, to be fair, but as Nate said, a lot of the time you kind of just get away from it, right?
Never been hit by it.
Right. This one, I played a little bit of Mr. Fantastic, not loads. But I do think one of the least effective things about Mr. Fantastic was his ult, if we're being completely honest, right? So there's a little bit of a change to that here, as well as the flexible elongation, which is is that his defensive?
That's his E ability, where he slides at people and...
Oh, right, okay, right. So
got a knockback effect now.
Oh, so that it's reducing... basically the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four of knockbacks, right? All those characters seem to have knockbacks in some way or another. Like, what's that about? But I will say, I'm not so... I mean, I get this and I think it's good, but I think I'm more interested in the ult. Having Mr. Fantastic's ult feel not like a waste, because you use it and you don't really feel like you get much from it half the time, right?
I mean,
it does damage, but you very rarely get a kill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't think it's enough damage to out damage the healers.
Yeah, exactly. But it has also been increased in terms of the energy cost, though, so it's a little bit of a trade-off there. But I mean, I'd rather get it less and do something than get it frequently and have like ineffectual ult, right?
You do have to aim a bit more now as well, because there's the fall off on the damage.
Yes.
Which I think that's fine. I think that's a good. I think that should have been in anyway.
Well, it makes sense. It's physics, right?
So it's saying it used to be 50 flat, and now it's 70 center, 50 at the edge. So really, they've just increased the center of it up to 70.
Yeah. Which means, like you say, targeting it.
If you basically consider that it hasn't had that damage increase at all, like for the rest of it.
Yeah.
It hasn't had a damage fall off added. It's just had the center boosted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that just requires a bit more like actual aiming with it, rather than you just trigger that out and just bounce everywhere and hope. You can, if you aim it, you're probably gonna do a lot more.
Honestly, the one I'm waiting to talk about is the Moon Knight change.
Yeah, so first off, the first part of this change I think makes sense, right? Because a lot of people have said every other hero, when you hear their ult line, you know to like do something like Punisher, Judge, Jury. Yeah, this you never did, because actually by the time Moon Knight said his line, you've already been killed. You're already dead. So like, personally, I think that on its own is the change for me. But they've also dealt with, there was a little bit of people were calling it a bug. I don't know whether it was intentional and they've changed it now because they haven't put it in a bug patch. They put it in the balance patch, in the balance note, should I say. But obviously they've kind of corrected this damage trigger logic for it, which basically was that it was doing almost double damage, right? So they've sorted that. But then they're saying increase the damage of each hit as well. So I'm wondering,
you got longer to get away.
Yes.
But if you don't get away, you die quicker.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a trade-off, but I think it's the right move for that Moon Knight ult. And what
you survive that then with like a lunar ult or something?
Potentially, yes, because then you could get out to the side of it. But it depends on where you're positioned in it. Because a lot of Moon Knights, I don't know if you've realized this, will kind of put the edge where someone is, and then they usually scare themselves and back into it rather than out like forward. Because so like a lot of the time that's how you'll kind of get them now. You'll kind of want to position it in a way that they're going to try and get out, but they're still going to get hit by the majority. And kind of hope that kind of works out. At least that's how I see it. I don't know if you guys sort of see the same.
Yeah, what happens to me all the time. I go like, okay, the moon, and I go, a step backwards away from where I think it's gonna, and it's directly behind me. I do all the time.
So, and then, guys, you know this one. We've been waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this one. We've all been talking about it. We all wanted it. In fact, this was pretty much what everyone was saying about it as well. And that's just giving the bonus health, right? For Wanda's Scarlet Witch's ult. I think this is probably the most reasonable change within, and I know obviously I'm biased, sorry guys. This is the most reasonable change in these patch notes overall, in my opinion, because it doesn't change the ult, right? It doesn't change anything about the ult apart from you kind of need to kill a Wanda quicker, right? Essentially.
Stop it,
So I think it's like it gives the Scarlet Witch players who position that ult well a little bit more of a reward for doing that, right? But at the same time, if you've got a Penny, they can stop her. If you've got someone who can lay a lot of damage into her, I could drop a Punisher ult and just wipe her out. That's still feasible, right?
It'll still be stopped the majority of the time, but it'll help actually get that ult off, because it just never hits, man. You hear pure and everyone goes, cool, she's dead.
Yeah.
You turn and shoot.
You typically have to use another ult with it to get any value out of it. And at that point, you've wasted an ult on an effect, like, for example, a Luna ult, or we've done an Invisible Woman ult before in certain games, right? And like, it works, yes, but then you've used an ult that's generally defensive, generally reactionary to when there's loads of damage coming in. You've had to use it to gain an offensive advantage, and sometimes not necessarily needed. Now a Scarlet Witch can go in and do her thing, and we'll see how it goes type thing, rather than kind of having to. Also, it means you've got to always consider that a lot of people aren't on voice comms as well, and if they aren't, then you can't really coordinate ults, that way all the time, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a general win without going too far. And I think generally she's quite balanced as a character at this point now. I don't think she needs to, like, you can take out a Wanda if you need to. And I think, but having someone who's decent with the character, good with the character, having the ability to try and get that off is the win, right? I think that's what they've done here. They're kind of rewarding the people who can play her well in a way. Next one, Spider-Man. Reduce web cluster energize time from 3 to...
I'm getting called.
No worries. Okay, yeah. Spider-Man, so reduce the web cluster cooldown to increase his offense. So that's... Web cluster is his range projectile, is that right? Am I thinking correctly there?
Web cluster.
I think so.
I don't know.
I could be wrong. Either way.
Oh, yeah, so that's his right click. So
that's his right click. So I think that's a good change for Spidey, because I find myself, and I understand that he's already annoying as is, but I don't think this changes too much, because what it basically means is you're probably going to always have one of your right clicks. And like, I think it's quintessentially Spider. It feels like that Thor and Cap change, right? What does Spider-Man do more than not? Shoot webs, right? Yeah. So it kind of feels to me kind of just...
It's 0.5 of a second as well. It's not like the biggest. Yes, that's going to be a big change for a Spider-Man player, but like I don't think it's
in the overall match
noticeable. Yeah.
This one's quite an interesting one as well. Moving just below Star-Lord, that guy's going to be zipping around a lot more.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I think it's right. I think what is Star-Lord if not a guy? It's the same again. It's the same as the before. It's a hero of fantasy, and what is Star-Lord if not a guy that zooms around, doing his thing?
He's essentially got a jetpack, so he should be able to fly for longer than he does at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the end of it for me on that one. I think that's straight to the point.
If anything, I think that comic accurately, he should just have it as he's a flyer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
However, then we'd have like 4 perma flying.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, you've got to balance it. I mean, technically, Adam Warlock should be able to fly. Technically, this person should be able to jump high.
Yeah. Magneto should be able to fly.
Exactly. Yeah, but you understand to an extent that you have to make sacrifices for the gameplay ability, right?
I do.
So, So I think that's a good way of kind of making that work. Where technically now, I think what the thing is, half the time I think what you do is you use 3/4 of his gauge, and then you're finished with what you're doing at the moment, and then you have to wait for it to build back up. Right now, you can maybe do like 2 bursts, sort of in short succession, and kind of get around the map a little bit more, which is pretty cool.
It's gonna be so much easier to just escape from things as well. I think that's. Don't get me wrong. Again, as a support main, Star-Lord can be very annoying.
Yes,
but for a Star-Lord main, I think that's going to be that's somewhat game changing for them.
So these storm changes, should I say? I don't dislike them because I think Storm went from like 0 to hero so far, and then I think what actually is good about this is that it's a small drop off really on all these different. Abilities, but she's actually more useful to the team. So she's not actually like if you've got a team and you're using her as a power boost. If you've got like the right characters with her, she's actually more useful all around, right? Even though she's being nerfed herself, right?
Yeah.
I think that'll bring her closer to the team. I think that's gonna
exactly.
At the moment, she's quite like high up, sort of off angle, shooting people like Iron Man does.
Yes,
but not always giving that buff to the teammates.
Yeah.
Whereas I think because the damage fall off has been changed, and I think I think having an extra 2% for your team is gonna encourage Storm players to actually like buff their team.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that mid range kind of flyer, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good. Now here we are with Duelist. I think generally it's a little bit more of a mixed bag, but some decent changes, some changes like what is that, and then some that kind of just make sense, right? So I think pretty okay again, and nothing crazy, nothing that I'm like, ugh. I think Strategist is the one where we're going to get into a little bit more of the Maya, right? So first up, Adam Warlock. I think generally it's just he's got a little bit more damage, which I think is right for Adam because a little bit more healing as well. But I think Adam's one of those, he hasn't got any kind of defensives, right? He hasn't got a way of getting out of a situation, really, apart from dying and then being brought back, so I think having a way of just being able to hit people a little bit more. Like he's strong as a character already. Don't get me wrong. When if someone can hit on Adam, yeah. But when you get someone up in your face on him, like it can be a little bit of an annoying situation because you're just walking away from them, right? Because Adam's not got a fast run speed either, which is very frustrating again for a character that is meant to fly. But that's irrelevant.
Especially for a slow support is frustrating.
Yeah. So I think he needed that in my head, and I think we'll see how that plays out. I still personally am the person who would prefer Adam to have some kind of ability that allows him to move a little bit more, but I'm not against this being the way of them kind of looking at it for the time being, at the very least.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, this is the change, the change everyone's talking about, the big change. And Nate, obviously you main Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, that is the most painful nerf I've ever seen. Like, don't get me wrong, I could have dealt with the increased cost.
Yes,
that I can live with that. It's understandable. It's a good ult. I can deal with the duration being slightly less.
Yeah,
but to also remove the stacking on top of all that, that is crazy.
I do disagree with this. Like, I don't think it should be near invulnerability when you're in it. But I do think that it shouldn't have been removed. Like, I would have put something that is like upon stacking reduce by 75%, and then or something like that. Them. Yeah,
like, stack two. You gave us an extra carpet. Cool. Yeah. Okay, but now the carpet. There's no point in having a fourth carpet if it's just not good.
Because you were going to you kind of almost go. You almost always did a triangle and kind of looped back with the fourth one, so to speak. Right now, you can't really do that. I think I'm kind of with you, to be honest. I think they should have. I think they've got in heavy-handed here. I think they've kind of went with let's do it all. Let's do it all at once instead of like trying one or two things and seeing how that felt. Because I think that ult cost is probably one of the highest in the game now. And I think that might have been sort of enough on its own for me. Because the thing that I was always frustrated about is, you start pushing. Cloak and Dagger's got their ult again, right? That was the issue. Now
that was the issue, not the actual we can't attack. No, because you can't really attack with a Sue Storm ult. Like that's not really the biggest issue. Or a Lunar ult comes in, you go, unless I've got an ult to smash her out, then we're probably going to just be stood here for a bit. But like now, I feel like she's going to get counted. They're going to get counted so much. That it's. I think you're going to see a lot less Cloak and Dagger players.
Which I get in a sense because they were being picked the most overall. They were one of the biggest picked characters. And what the hard thing is, as someone, I was saying this at the beginning of the video, we are people who are generally on, and not in a derogatory way to ourselves, not in a mean way to ourselves. We're on the lower end of that kind of gameplay spectrum, so to speak, right? So we see it differently to these big streamers. And I think that's both a boon and a loss in a way, because we don't quite understand all of the intricacies of that higher level play. But at the same time, we get to see a different level of play. Personally, I think this is one that is better for higher level of play, but detrimental for lower level of play, in my opinion. Because
the big people in the tournaments are going to go, oh, yes, great. Or they're going to go, okay, cool, I'll do this instead. But like when you're like...
When you're dealing with random John Doe in your team, you want them to be able to stand in something and just not die for a bit. You know what I mean?
You want them to jump in and save the day with your ult, rather than then going, okay, cool, my ult's down, everyone's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
They still die.
Exactly. So and especially because, like you just said, and let's just talk about these all together at this point. Let all of the other ults, let Invisible Woman, Loki, and Luna. I mean, actually, Luna's is a little bit higher than everyone's at this point, 4,500. But they've all had their ults increased in terms of the cost, right?
Yeah.
Now, exactly what you said. Loki, not so much, because Loki's a very different ult to pretty much anyone else's in the game, right? Of course. But Invisible Woman and Luna are not dissimilar. They're pretty much the same situation with Cloak and Dagger, right? You stand in an Invisible Woman ult, and what happens? You do not die. Unless there's exactly the same situation, you have something that can burst damage them in one tick, right? And the same with Luna's. So I kind of maybe get why Luna didn't have, like, do you know what I would have done with Luna personally? I would have kind of upped her, I would have actually buffed the damage side of it to try and suggest people to use that a little bit more or something like that. Because I think that's a side that you don't really see now, especially because they stopped the changing, right? Because people were doing the swap where you'd like hit back and forth constantly, right? And I get why they stopped that, but but like now you don't really see that damage side often. I mean, I was playing Luna last night and I was doing a little bit of it because we were all maxed out at the end of the kind of the ult, so I did it for a few seconds. But I think almost if you try to suggest the Luna ult, or in fact kind of made the Luna ult. If I was to rework Luna's ult so that we didn't have all the same ults, I'd say make it 1 and not 2, and make it that it was a damage boost with some healing or something like that, like a smaller healing. I don't know. That's how I do it to kind of mitigate this issue a little bit more. But going back to Cloak and Dagger, I think they've been nerfed so much compared to Invisible Woman and Luna Snow regards their roles here.
They've been absolute tanks with that. That's an L for Cloak and Dagger. It's for real.
It's the biggest nerf in the patch, right? Like 100%. Like no,
pretty much everyone else has had a buff.
Or some kind of moderational change, right?
Yeah. Small nerfs rather than like she's had they've had 3 to their ult.
Yeah,
three nerfs just to their ult. Well, and one. They got the increased energy.
They got a little bit more healing on each amount.
More healing for one. That's not too bad. 250% is decent.
But the duration on it's nerfed, and it's a weird one. It's a weird one. But overall,
I feel like the pause time between segments decreasing. Yes, that's going to be very helpful.
Well, that helps with Magnetos, right?
Yeah. And the buff on Cloak's cape.
Yeah, giving it a little bit more offensive. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't utilize that enough. Mm-hmm. Like not the players playing Cloak and Dagger, but the people on your team. The amount of times I've jumped in, used the E, like put the vulnerability on like their entire team, and then my team aren't like capitalizing on that vulnerability.
Yeah, I feel like you see it, but I feel like there should be like kind of a marker on the enemy team in some way. Because there's not much of that.
They do go purple, and they do have voice lines, but I just don't think people know that's what it does, other than blinding them.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a few more markers in the game in some way to kind of indicate things going on. Because I think the voice lines, I don't think sometimes I even forget which thing's going off first of all. And I get it; it's still a new game, so you're still getting that kind of the grip of the terminology and stuff. But like, I think there should be a few more indicators of certain things going on in the game at certain points, in my opinion. At least that's how I see it.
I do think, though, that for me, as a Cloak and Dagger main, the amount of times I've been dived, so I change the cloak, I use my E to blind them and make them vulnerable, and then try and kill them and get just shy of killing them before they get me. I think that's gonna
help you with survivability a little bit.
Much. I'm gonna survive so much more. I'm gonna be able to kill a lot quicker now, which is nice.
Yeah, it's nice to see some survivability change for sure.
Yeah.
But so that, I mean, the only other one really in there to talk about is Loki getting a little bit more charge. I don't think that's necessarily a bad one. I think Loki's got a low healing amount anyway compared to some of the others. So I think having that, great, cool. I don't think it's a crazy change.
I'd use Loki more as a DPS half the time.
Yeah, well, that's true as well.
He just slams them. I think that magic missiles from 10 to 12 is gonna help a lot.
Yeah, and then we get into team ups. Now, some of these are really interesting. Some of these not so much. Atlas Bond. So this is probably one of the ones. It's funny because I actually don't mind it, but I've not seen it used all that much at all, and I'm hoping that this changes that a little bit. So Luna basically will be able to get more healing from Frozen Chi and slow enemies a little bit more as well, 20% to 30%. So I think seeing that Iron Fist, I mean, it's probably one of the least team ups I see in the game.
So what does Frozen Chi do?
So Frozen Chi is a knockback that also puts out healing to the people around you at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
it slows enemies as well. It's Luna uses it, but you have to have Iron Fist on the team.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good. I always liked it. When I've used it, I've always liked it. I think getting a little bit more on it to give it some more impactful of a reason to use it is actually a win.
I wonder if the changes to Iron Fist's character then will maybe help that to like get more people to use Iron Fist.
Yeah, because I think you're seeing people who are kind of people pick Iron Fist not based on anything, right? At the moment, I think now you're going to find that people are moving off Iron Fist who aren't picking someone intentionally, if you know what I mean. I think
no one picks Iron Fist for that team up.
No, but also I don't think I think people pick Iron Fist because big damage. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's kind of why people are picking Iron Man when a Hulk's locked in. It's the same thing, big damage. Big damage. Now that he's not necessarily as much that, maybe you'll see some people kind of shining through who are playing Iron Fist for the right reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think this one, the next one, I mean, I don't love this team up anyway. Dimensional Shortcut. I don't know what you guys think about this one.
Very forgettable.
Yeah, it's very forgettable, and so I it's kind of like, okay, like I look at that and I think, okay, you know, like sure, the one that no one uses anyway. I mean, the thing is, I will say these guys are already very strong characters. All three of the ones who, well, I mean, Magic's the anchor character, but Black Panther and Psylocke are really annoying characters anyway. So them getting kind of this, I think, could be big for them, but it's a forgettable one, generally speaking, for me anyway. So I don't really have much to say on it because I generally don't remember it's a thing.
Yeah, I've lost a fight to it once against a Psylocke that all of a sudden just disappeared.
Wound back.
You know, and she got me, but I don't see it used. I just don't see it used at all.
Yeah. And then next up, Gamma Charge. Now, this one I think is not only necessary, but just for the sake of, like, it's one of those things that you almost, especially like higher levels, that was the point, right? Why the bands were getting so, because it was such a strong one. So
yeah,
I do think the health thing, I don't think I really care about that part. To me, I don't know whether you guys think the same. The 50 loss of health, I don't think, I don't know. I think Hulk's health goes down pretty fast already if you really target him.
Yeah, I don't think I've noticed it, if I'm honest. The buff, like if I'm against the Hulk and Iron Man, I don't really notice the Hulk being that much stronger. Or even playing as the Hulk, I don't really notice that extra.
Yeah. I feel like Hulk is one of those characters who's in and out of his, like, you go really far in with Hulk typically, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, I think, I don't know about that one, but the Unibeam, I agree. That get that drop off, I think that's reduce the damage. I think that's right, personally. So that one, good, but like for the Iron Man side, not so much for the Hulk side, in my opinion. I think you guys will agree because I know you both have played Hulk to some degree.
Yeah, now, I think that's fine.
Yeah. Now, this one I think is really interesting, right? So the one between Cloak and Dagger and Moon Knight. Moon Knight is basically going to full moon, new effect, continuously heal Moon Knight for 25 health per second while within the effect area. So basically, you'll want to keep this as an oh shit button, more so now, because you'll be able to go, right, I need to heal a little bit. No one's around me right now. Bam, throw that down. And, you know, the Cloak and Dagger is a typical pick, and it's still going to be a typical pick, regardless of what's just happened. And so having another character who can sort of heal themselves a little bit is not necessarily a bad thing, I don't think.
I think that's great for Cloak and Dagger and Moon Knight, because the amount of Moon Knights, right? The amount of Moon Knights that spam that heal me button and they're up on the fucking mountain somewhere and they're like, heal me, and like, heal yourself.
You can literally say that now. You can say that now.
Heal
use
yourself.
Your fucking full moon ability and use it.
That's gonna be nice to not have to, but it's also nice. It's one less person you have to worry about. You now have to heal 4 people.
Well,
maybe yourself.
The thing is now, let's say for example you have a team that's a Moon Knight and Iron Fist, and yes, I balk at the idea of that being your team comp anyway. But like they both have somewhat of a survivability effect now, right? Like obviously Iron Fist's got those changes. It's nice to see a team where you can kind of you would be able to worry about the tanks a little bit more. You know?
Yeah.
So
that's what you want as a support. You don't want to be like worrying too
running
much
around.
Yeah.
And then so this one, Symbiote Bond. Now this is another one that's forgettable in my opinion.
I never use it.
I do think the Spider-Man side of this. I mean, the Penny side. I've got to be honest. Never use it on Penny. Use it on Penny. But on Spider-Man, I think this can be interesting because basically it makes him invincible. Right? It makes him invincible for that 1 second, which it can be used so well if something's coming towards him. And I think, you know, Spider-Man can be squishy if you get at him, right? If he stops.
Spider-Man's very squishy. I think I've got so many Spider-Men as like Cloak and Dagger and stuff where you've got the auto aim and you just click at him.
Yeah.
He's dead. Like he's squishy.
Yeah, so him being able to like kind of knock you back, make himself invincible for a second and, you know, kind of get out, it's quite quite good in a way for Spider-Man players. I think it's going to be annoying for it's kind of annoying for the dive meta is here. You know what I mean? So I think in that way, and the penny one, I mean, it's the same thing. But I mean, using it as a defensive cooldown is actually a really sort of an interesting idea. Basically every so often you'll be able to hit this thing that makes you invincible for a few seconds, which you can almost use like a Mr. Fantastic sort of ability, right? Like if there was a wonder ult or something like that, you can hit this.
I suppose it's one of those moments where you're on your nest, you've got webs underneath you, you're healing, but they are hitting too much.
Yes, exactly. You can do that for a second.
You got two seconds just to get that little bit of extra healing going up.
Yeah.
Potentially survive that situation if if your team's close or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that I've never used. But again, it's also an ult survivor.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's the thing now. It really does. If you hit it at the right time now, you're going to be able to survive those ults that kind of wipe you out. Like an Iron Man ult or something like that, right?
I think they initially wanted it to be a more offensive team up.
Yeah, but no one used it that way.
No one used it that way.
In fact, just no one used it at all.
Yeah, because as Penny as well, you've got guns. Why would I need? Yes, if they're attacking me up close range.
Yeah.
But if they're attacking me close range, I'm on my nest anyway.
Yeah.
So they realistically shouldn't be able to attack you, close range unless
Yeah.
If they come at you. Yeah.
You're running back to your team.
Yeah. So to have a melee kind of attack damage boost
slash cooldown,
yeah, like I don't.
The more I'm thinking about it now, that actually I think you are going to see a lot more usage of that now, because I think that's especially for Penny. I think Penny didn't use it as much as Spider-Man previously. I think now you'll see Penny's actually use that as a rotational cooldown, right?
Spider-Man uses it as part of his kit.
Exactly.
They're going in, they're swinging in, hitting that thing. They're doing their little combos, and then they're ulting. You can wipe a team easily with. But now that it's only 1 second as well, that is literally
it's a defense mechanism.
You've got to have reactions for that as well. You've got to be hitting that button right there. For 1 second invincibility. That's crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, at the right moment with an ult again, you can save yourself there, So we'll see how that.
I've seen Spider-Man swing into maximum pulses. I've seen them swing up into the air.
Yeah.
To take it head on.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah. So you could do
that with invincibility. You're tanking it.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that. There's a lot of options there, actually, potentially, isn't there?
You could block things quite well.
Yeah.
It's turned it into an actually decent team up.
A feasible,
usable team up.
Yeah.
One that you might actually see occasionally.
Yeah. So
for 1 second,
that is the majority. Well, not the majority. That is the patch notes. So I think generally good changes. I know the Cloak and Dagger one is a little bit of a sticky wicket, especially with the unit. But I think otherwise, I think these are good changes. Obviously, I think in the benefit of the game, they were saying they don't want the matches to be drawn out, and I get that, and I agree with that here. I think that's the main thing they're doing here. They're trying to make these matches less about a slogfest, and they want them to be kind of a kind of dynamic environment. You go in, you fight, you finish the battle, you kind of move on, right? So I think that's definitely the case here. We'll have to see how these play out in game, of course. But as well, also see, because we don't know how Thing and Human Torch are going to mess with this as well, right? Because are they going to come in and be like subpar? Or are they going to come in and be absolutely insane, right? You just don't know until you've got them in your hands.
Well, I feel like the main thing is from all these changes and like we said, like the new dive meta. I feel like when you join a convoy thing, right? You go, cool, I'm on defense. We'll get Penny. We'll get all these defensive characters, and then all of a sudden you're just being dived. You're just gonna get potentially just wiped out.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're gonna see a lot more, a bigger variety of comps, for sure.
And I do think Johnny, from what we've seen in the gameplay of him so far, has kind of a few mechanisms to deal with that. As a damage dealer, helping your supports and stuff like that. The AoE walls, for example, and the knockback dive. I think you're going to see a lot more of him kind of using that Well, at least that's maybe how I would use it, to kind of get people off your healers for a certain period or something like that, right? So there's ways of using that, but I mean, obviously you can use it offensively, but I think there's going to be some defensive use there as well. So we'll see how
I think people are going to get very tripped up with the things not being able to no knockback. I think people are going to get get shut themselves up with it consistently, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like Thor's going to try and charge him, and he's going to stand still.
He's like, hello?
The Hulk's ult trying to punch him away. He's just going to stand there, and I think that's going to be...
It's going to be an interesting change, right? It's going to be an interesting... Have this character who's just like, nah, I'm him. Like...
Well, Ajax, you play as Sue Storm a lot. How often are you, when you're being dived, how often do you use the...
Oh, all the time.
You push him away and you run, right?
Depending on the map. I sometimes do like to keep it in reserve, just if there's a cliff nearby.
Oh yeah. If you're on like Asgard on a convoy right at the start, and you're just surrounded. There's no cliffs, right? If you're getting dived, it can be handy just to push them back, jump away, turn invisible. You're gone. You can't push the thing. So like, if he's coming at you, like you've got to. There's so many different strategies that are gonna have to change.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about like at the end of a time, sometimes what actually gets people the point at the end of a match is not killing the people who are on the point at the end, it's knocking them off, right? Yeah. So if you have someone who's not going to be able to be knocked off, then that's going to be like interesting, right? Because it's like this guy is just going to stay on the point regardless. So if he's getting healed right, you that little bit of an end of the match is going to be a little bit more difficult for certain characters.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to change a lot, and I feel like at the moment you've got the highest pick rate at the moment is Cloak and Dagger, 27.5%.
That's going to drop. Yeah. But I mean, as well, and what's interesting at the top of this post, I think this is a good way of rounding us out because we'll be coming back for this in season 2, is as a reminder, players can look forward to a comprehensive adjustment to team ups abilities beyond numerical tweaks starting in season 2. Which I think is a really interesting statement. What do they mean by that? Does it mean different team-ups? Does it mean new effects for team-ups? What does it mean? I'm really interested to see what that looks like. And I'm really interested to see what Season 2 does. Obviously, we had the suggestion of Blade. What's Blade going to look like? What's Blade going to add to the meta?
Oh, we've seen what Blade looks like.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of his kit. Sorry, that was a bad word. I mean, it's in like what he looks like from a kit perspective. What's he going to do? Because yes, he has a sword, but is it going to be like, does he have like something ranged as well? Or how is that going to look, you know? So
because he does have like guns and stuff in the films, does he?
Well, and also I think some kind of like not batarang, but like something akin to like some kind of like throwing a weapon as well.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know loads about
No, I don't either, to be fair, but it's going to be an interesting one to find out. And obviously, as long as you guys would be like to, I'd like to invite you back, obviously, for another one of these at some point. I really like it. I really like this format, and I think if you guys would be interested in kind of doing this more formally, that would be a really cool thing. And hopefully, you guys at home enjoyed it as well. And
that'd be good fun.
Yeah, if you guys want to see more of this, let us know in the comments. Subscribe as well. And do all that shit. I'm just going to say shit. I don't care. You can get away with shit. I think it's when you go to the F bombs that you start like. You know. Anyway, I said a couple of like frequently you can get away with one or two. Don't worry. It's weird. We're still getting used to it. But thank you guys for joining, Nate, Phin, of course, as well, and Ajax. I know. Obviously, Finn's gone, but that's no reason not to thank them still. How dare you leave halfway through? But we'll be coming back for more. Obviously, keep an eye out for tomorrow on Twitch, where we'll be actually playing the new update. Until then. Guys, thank you. I'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.